6 months. It's been 6 months since I've placed a booking for the flagship Proton X50, and here it is, finally, the review unit that we got from the good folks over at Proton. So yes, unfortunately, I am still waiting to get my car, and with over 30,000 Malaysians that wants to get this car, Proton is definitely having some difficulty meeting consumer demand. I mean, my sales agent wants to get it, my banker wants to get it, and even my colleague's uncle from Penang wants to get this B segment SUV. So the big question is, since I still have to wait for the car and it could go well over 6 months at this point, is it really worth it to wait that long for just an SUV from Proton? Well, if you'd like to find out, keep on watching this review of the Proton X50. Let's start off this review with the design of the Proton X50. The front end of this car, in my opinion, is the best looking angle of the SUV. You get these very nice looking LED headlamps with LED DRL, and it's worth mentioning that the LED DRL also doubles as the signal indicator, which is usually only found on more premium cars, so good on Proton for implementing that. Aside from that, another design that I really like is the infinite width grille, the new Proton logo, and this red accent across the grille. It really gives the car a aggressive looking design that suits the sportiness of this SUV. The side profile of the Proton X50 is equally sporty as well. You get this nice black top roof because this is the flagship model, 18-inch alloy wheels, as well as red brake calipers. If you look closely at the brakes, you can actually spot a Link & Co branding, which is actually Geely's premium car brand. So it's very nice that you can get a premium brand like this on a Proton. And here on the back of the Proton X50 is my least favorite angle of the car. I mean, the whole back design here just doesn't match the front end's much more aggressive look. But what I do like is this Proton script on the back of the boot. It really gives it a upmarket feel. But I do hope the letters stay on the boot because they don't look particularly secure. So it would suck if in the future it reads out Proto or Pro-On, if you get what I mean. When you step into the Proton X50's cabin, it doesn't feel like you're in a B segment SUV at all. You get soft touch material everywhere, including the dash, the door card, and even the buttons feel very satisfying to press. In short, gone are the days when it feels like a Proton's interior is not up to par. If anything, it feels like I'm sitting in a C segment car instead of a B segment SUV, which is very big praises for the X50. That being said, there are a few aspects of the X50's interior that I don't quite like, starting with this infotainment screen. Now, although it looks very sharp and it's a very large screen, it doesn't feel very good because it doesn't come with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. If you want to connect your phone to the infotainment screen, you need to use an app called QD Link, which is just not that good. It works okay if you have an Android phone because it's just casting the screen to the infotainment display, but it doesn't feel very responsive or quite as seamless as using Android Auto. The good thing is, you can still control the phone using the touchscreen of the infotainment screen, but you cannot do that with an iPhone. So if you have an iPhone, you are unfortunately out of luck here. Aside from that, there is also the 360 camera of the Proton X50, and it is very helpful in the sense that it gives you a bird's eye view of the car, but the quality of the camera is just bad. I mean, it doesn't even look like you're getting a 360p resolution camera. Instead, it's like something out of a 3GP video from the early 2000s, which is not good at all. And then there's the driving position of the Proton X50. Now, I am not a very tall individual at only about 165 cm, but as you can see, I have zero thigh support here. Granted, you would say I could just raise the seat up, but that does nothing to give me more thigh support. So on longer drives, it does get very tiring and a little bit uncomfortable. Now that we're done with the front seat, let's head to the back and see if it's any good. Back here, I get a boatload of leg space, so I do feel very comfortable here. That being said, I am not particularly tall, as I've mentioned, at only about 165 cm, so even though the driver's seat is set to my driving position, I get this much legroom, which is great. Now, unless you're very tall and your driver is as tall as you, I imagine most folks back here will have a lot of leg space to work with. What makes the backseat even more comfortable is the addition of this leather armrest, which is very supple. The panoramic sunroof makes the car look and feel a lot roomier than it actually is. And exclusive to the Malaysian market are these rear aircon vents, which is not available in the Geely Binue or the Geely Coolray in the Philippines. These two models are what the X50 is based on. If I were to nitpick about what I don't like about the back seat, it would be this door cut. It is mostly made out of hard plastic instead of the front seats, which get some soft touch material, but you do still get some leather bits here and here, and overall, yeah, we're very comfortable here on long journeys. Now that we're done with the interior of the Proton X50, let's finally get to the driving experience. Behind the wheel of the Proton X50 is a very enjoyable place to be in because of just how much power this car gives you. Under the hood of this flagship variant is a 1.5-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine with direct injection tech that outputs 177 PS and 255 Nm of torque. The other models of this car gets a slightly lower output from the same engine but with multi-point injection tech instead. So I've been told that there is not much power difference, but I do have to try it out for myself before I can really say anything about it. With this much power under the hood, this car can really pull. Even when I'm doing 80 to 90 km per hour and I floor it, this car absolutely just surges forward with quite a bit of pull. Whether you're trying to overtake a car or try to go up Genting, you will not have any deficit in power with this car. Aside from that, there are also 3 different driving modes to choose from: Eco, Sport and Normal. But out of these 3 driving modes, I just stick to Normal the most because the other 2 are just a little bit too extreme. In Sport mode, the throttle sensitivity is a little bit too much. You just tap the throttle and the car just jerks forward, and that's just not very pleasant. In Eco mode, on the other hand, it's the complete opposite. It feels very sluggish, and you really have to almost floor the pedal to get the car to really give you the power that you need to overtake and things like that. And in normal driving mode, you get the best of both worlds. The throttle response isn't too sluggish or too sensitive, and you still can get enough power, or you can save fuel by not putting your foot down the pedal too much. The transmission of this car, on the other hand, is a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, which is the very same one found in the CKD Proton X70. Compared to DCTs found in other cars, which has a tendency to jerk at lower speeds, this is not the case at all with the X50. In slow-moving traffic, the car can creep forward much like a conventional automatic gearbox. So if you're using a car that uses an automatic gearbox and you transition to this car, you will be right at home. Next, we have the right-hand handling of the X50, and in this regard, there is a lot of expectation because this is a Proton model, which is known for their excellent right-hand handling. Well, I'm happy to say that this car rides very nicely. It can even out road bumps very well, and it has such a sophisticated ride that exceeds the standards set by other B-segment SUVs. It really is no exaggeration to say that this car feels a lot like a C-segment car just because it rides so well. But in terms of handling, you have to set your expectations a little bit lower. Though this X50 carries the Proton name, it is still based on the Geely Binue, which is a Geely car. So there's only so much that Proton can tune the handling. With that said, this steering wheel is a little bit numb, but it does offer enough feel for me to know where the wheels are pointing on the road. It also loads up quite nicely as I'm taking corners, so that's great because it gives you confidence that you can negotiate a corner well. While I do wish it offers more feel and feedback like my Proton Iris, because that is a true blue Proton model, it's good enough because I mean, this is an SUV that most families will get because it offers the practicality of an SUV. It is not a sports car for enthusiasts, even if it offers a lot of power. So in that regard, I'm completely fine with the handling. In terms of NVH, the Proton X50 is a little bit of a mixed bag. Although it can eliminate the vibration of the 3-cylinder engine very well in this cabin, there are a few aspects here and there that just doesn't quite make sense in my opinion. For example, when I'm doing about 80 km per hour, there is a very noticeable wind noise coming from the A-pillar, which is very weird because other aspects of this car is just so good. It is very quiet, you don't hear the road noise much, and for that to be such a noticeable wind noise, and with Proton saying that they've tested this car for many hours on Malaysian roads, it's just very weird that how come they didn't catch this one issue. Now, Proton is aware of this issue and it is working on a fix, so hopefully when I do get my own unit, that problem will be solved because it's quite a big problem, guys. Besides that, there is also this one issue that I have not really encountered with cars that I have driven. The floor of the X50 rumbles quite a bit depending on the road condition. So if you're on smooth asphalt road, you don't feel as much vibration, but if you're on rougher back roads, you can definitely feel the floor rumbling, which is very weird. Now, this is not a huge issue by any means, but it is definitely an oddity that is worth pointing out. Last but certainly not least is the ADAS of the X50, which is a collection of features that is meant to make your drive more relaxing and not so stressful. Out of all the features available in ADAS, ICC or Intelligent Cruise Control is my favorite feature. Once this feature is active, I can just let the car control the steering as well as the throttle input. It even brakes for me depending on the speed of the car in front of me, so it works on highways and even in traffic jams, which is a godsend in KL traffic. However, this is only level 2 semi-autonomous driving. As its name suggests, it is semi-autonomous, so you still need to give your full attention to the road. Your hands have to be on the steering wheel because if you let it go for too long, it will nag at you to hold the steering wheel. And there are certain blind spots that this system have, like if a motorcycle especially tries to cut in, you have to brake on your own because this car may not do it for you and you do not want things like that to happen. Overall, I do think ICC is the best feature of ADAS. It is especially useful in heavy traffic because it can follow the car in front of me very naturally and it leaves just enough space for other Malaysian drivers to not cut into your lane. Yes, ICC is not perfect because it does have some difficulty staying in lane, especially when the road markings fade, but overall, it does make my drive in KL traffic a lot more relaxing, and when I'm back at home, I don't feel quite as exhausted. And to me, this alone makes it worth it to spend a little bit more money from the premium X50 to this flagship unit. Speaking of price, the X50 retails from about 79,000 ringgit for the standard model and up to 103,000 ringgit for this flagship model. For that kind of money, specifically this flagship model, you are getting a lot of value for your money for only 103,000 ringgit. You get ADAS, which is extremely useful in heavy traffic, you get a more powerful engine, you get this panoramic sunroof, and the value proposition here is just extremely good. Of course, these prices are only valid until June 2021 because that's when the sales tax exemption given by the government will end. But if you ask me if it's still worth it to pay a little bit more for the X50 after the sales tax exemption period has ended, I would say yes. While the value proposition won't be quite as good anymore, there are no SUVs in the market now that offer the same feature set at its price point, however much it would be. And personally for myself, I would gladly pay more if it means I would get the car sooner. Yeah. So after all is said and done, is the Proton X50 worth the wait? Well, without a shadow of a doubt, it is absolutely worth it. I mean, after driving this car for the past few days, if anything, it makes me want to get my car as soon as possible, which sucks because I honestly have no idea exactly when I'm gonna get my own unit. So if you're like me who placed a booking on 16 September itself, be patient because the wait will be absolutely worth it. And that's it for our review of the Proton X50. If you'd like to see more automotive content from us, let us know in the comment section down below. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and always stay tuned for more good stuff to come here on this channel and nextshift.com.